My name is Sandra Bergman, and I actually went from Berman to Bergman, so I can say I'm Sandra Bergman. And I was born on December 30th, 1943, and I grew up in East New York, Brooklyn. Um, being a first generation of Jewish refugees from the war was very significant. Um, I really did enjoy the religious practice. There was a lot of singing, a lot of joy in my home. We were modern Orthodox. As a girl, I began to become very aware of being left out, that that rituals I enjoyed were really left for boys and men. And I love to sing, and I don't really know if I would have aspired to be a cantor, but definitely I knew that that was not an option anyway. I always longed to go to Israel, and it became something I saved up my money for as a kid. And so I really did remain observant until the time when I was in college. And then I started, to there were, increments of writing on Shabbat when I wasn't at home, and so gradually I stopped keeping kosher, and that was pretty short period of in my life, really. And where I didn't keep kosher, and I didn't go to shul, and I saved my money, and then in June of 1965, I got on a ship, and I went traveling in Europe for 6 months and to the former Soviet Union, and eventually ended up in Israel, where I stayed for almost 2 years. I was traveling alone. I got on a student ship and just by myself in July 65, got off in England, and from there I traveled for 6 months. It was a little scary, but my first, one way I dealt with it when I got to England was I went to the Hillel at the college, and I met a couple of young Jewish students, and there we went to Russia. It was a real eye-opener. It was really, really very, very bleak. The reason I went was to have some contact with the Jewish community. I brought along prayer books, I brought along Siddurim, I brought along some Jewish necklaces, Magen David, which I intended to either give it to people I encountered in the synagogue or at the Israeli embassy to see if they could give them out for me. And so that was like the motivating factor for my trip there. Well, of course, it was, made things a little difficult with my family. My parents were quite upset and didn't know what to do with this. This was something they weren't anticipating, so naturally, it was difficult. But to me, it was all very exciting. I just felt that this was something I had to do. It wasn't really like a choice for me. It was something organic, and it opened up my eyes to, for sure, in the Soviet Union, where there was limited food, and how people wow, there's a totally different lifestyle here that exists. People really don't have enough. Where I'm coming from. Yeah, so it did have an impact on me. Well, it's changed for so many different people in different ways. I mean, for me, it's been wonderful to have found a synagogue on Chesed on West 100th Street that's so participatory, that's been very completely egalitarian for a really, really long time, and that also has a strong sense of community. And also a place where while family is important, whether families come together and are like-minded is not as crucial as I think it may be for some other synagogues. There's never any feeling there of like, well, where's the rest of your family, kind of, which you sometimes feel in other places. So for me, it's changed in the way that I think I have a stronger connection to a synagogue than I anticipated. That's very joyful and meaningful. I think for me, it means a historical connection to all the people that came before and to all the history that occurred in our, for our people. And it's a opportunity to belong to community where people care for each other. It's that sense of community that's there. And an opportunity to pass that, like a responsibility really, to pass on that legacy as much as possible to make sure that the Jewish people continues to thrive.
This podcast featured Sandra Bergman and was produced by Shaina Levey in conjunction with DOROT and Old School Films. Special thanks to Jasmine and Diane for helping me create this documentary. DOROT is a recipient of the support from the New York Teen Initiative. The New York Teen Initiative is jointly funded by UJA-Federation of New York and the Jim Joseph Foundation. The Jewish Education Project serves as lead operator of the initiative. The DOROT Jewish Summer Teen Internship Legacy Project are also supported by a grant from the JFNA Center for Advancing Holocaust Survivor Care.